Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 7. It's called Chapter 7, The Reckoning. So full spoilers for the episode as always. This episode released a couple days early. They wanted this to come out the day before the new Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I guess there's one small thing. I mean, having seen the movie, which we won't talk about or spoil or anything, but having seen the movie, there's one tiny little thing that I guess makes some sense. But
there is an element that is new in this that is also in the movie that was not in anything else before.
Yeah, but for the record, I saw the movie first, and it didn't
me too.
It wasn't like I was like, oh, I was.
Yeah. Like Alden, who's in our Facebook group, was like, "Hey, yeah, if you can, watch The Mandalorian first because it'll be way better." I'm like, well, that wasn't possible because I was already at the cinema when you told me that.
I mean, either way, it's a random new thing. Like, it doesn't really matter which one you watch first.
It doesn't, no.
No, but other than that, I mean, my only guess is that because obviously Friday's kind of the main release day for it. I mean, I know there's
I think that was the main reason, because obviously they released it on the Wednesday, the episode, just to give it some space.
Yeah, because obviously there is some Thursday night showings in the US, but the full day of showings is still the Friday, the first day. So I think it was just a case of trying to give it its own little spotlight. But hey, so we got to it now. We're going to talk about episode 7, the penultimate episode of season 1, which actually does kind of go back to the main plot. And I think in this episode I realised just how little main plot there's been this season, because it is actually really simple. The first 3 episodes are the story of him getting the baby Yoda, the child, and we have a couple of standalone little adventures in the middle, and then these last 2 episodes are very much, okay, here's what the rest of the main plot is, which is the actual danger of the real bad guy coming for the child.
Yeah. I will say I'm kind of okay with that there's not that much plot, because I enjoyed the standalone episodes to varying degrees. But I like that, okay, we can do a bit of both and not feel the need to stretch out the plot, or, we can just go, right, we're not doing the plot this episode. It's
a weird thing, because I agree with that sentiment in theory, but typically when I agree with that sentiment, there's a lot more episodes. There's something weird about only having 8 and having half of them be standalone little adventures. It feels like as a seasonal meal, it's a very different package than what I expect from an 8-episode HBO or Netflix or whatever. Like,
yeah,
very, very different. And I think it's really down to taste. What's good and bad. Part of this is because it's weirdly new and different, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's inherently good or bad necessarily. I think it is just a personal
I guess I'm not really feeling what the benefit is right now. I'm not really feeling anything negative from it, but I'm not really feeling what the benefit is either. Like, I'm not really saying, oh, this is what they accomplished by doing it this way, or this is...
I would say they accomplished the fact that they wanted to do standalone, just short little tales, Western and samurai-inspired little short films, essentially. And also, they wanted to have some sort of plot to start and end the season. And I think, in that regard, they succeeded.
Very interesting, very weird. At least from a modern TV perspective. So someone in the comments last week did say that, hey, well, this is kind of mirroring, the old serials, which is kind of what Star Wars was based on. And I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah. I mean, you got kind of a point there.
It's weird how it actually feels like a lot of late 90s, early 2000s network TV, where you have these serialized episodes kind of sprinkled in over the season, but a lot of it is just, case of the week.
But again, 22 episodes meant you came back to the main plot every so often, whereas with this, it's just the start and the end because it's such a short...
Exactly, yeah.
Short season. But it's this weird thing where, I'm looking at this episode and I'm thinking... I kind of go back to, like, you could almost just, I'm not saying there was no good stuff in there, and you obviously have to introduce Carino's character, but, like, you could almost cut out those middle episodes and again just turn this into, like, a 2-hour movie, and, like, tell the story of what it's done with the child, and it would function quite well.
If you wanted to, you absolutely could. I don't necessarily think that you should do that, because I like more than I dislike of those middle episodes. And,
I just bring that up in a sense of just like how they structured this, how they wrote it, the decisions that were made, because this could have very easily been just a 2-hour movie, the main story they're telling here. And I wonder the decision, is it just because they think a TV show on their new service is less of a risk because it'll sell subscriptions based on the name but doesn't have the same pressure behind it that a new movie does? You know,
it's possible.
I mean, we've heard that the Obi-Wan thing was supposed to be a movie or movies, and now it's a TV show instead, which would certainly lead to speculation that they do feel less risk and feel less pressure doing a TV
A bit
show.
more freedom, yeah. I suspect that might be more serialized than this, but I could be wrong.
We'll find out when we.
I think the reason I say that is I think that's all been directed by one person, Deborah Chow, who actually directed this episode and episode 3, interestingly enough. So you kind of, it really does feel like 3 straight into this in that regard as well.
Yeah, they said, with the exception of the introduction of has one ally who is introduced in that middle section, you would actually be able to go straight into this episode without feeling that you missed anything.
Yeah, you just, as long as you'd have to just rewrite a little bit of a conversation to say, some time passed. That's, he was off. There are references to, they've been chasing you while you've been running. Just flesh that conversation out a little bit more to give it more context. If those other episodes didn't exist, and you could probably get away with it.
Because Nick Nolte was in the first batch of episodes. The Droid was the first batch of episodes. Obviously, everything with Apollo Creed was the first few episodes. So everything really follows on from that. So, which isn't a complaint. It's not a complaint at all. I think this episode is fine. Obviously, this is one of the bigger cliffhangers because it is clearly a 2-parter with the final episode. Yeah. I will say I'm a little upset my boy Werner Herzog got taken out so easily and quickly after really only appearing. Like, he was in episode 1 and 3, and then he showed up here briefly before being instantly killed.
Do you know what I will say is, I think it's been interesting in that regard that a lot of cast in the pre-release were like, these are your main players, the droid, IG-11, Herzog, who else we had in there? Even Gina Carano was pretty high up in the promotional materials, and she's been in this is the 2nd episode.
Yeah, she feels bigger than the others because she feels recurring in the sense that, okay, she's an ally because they met her, and she'll definitely be in the next one because there's no way she's just going to disappear.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not undercutting that. I'm just saying, for what the promotional material said, she's still in less than half the episodes.
Yeah, it almost feels. It feels a bit disingenuous in the sense that by marketing them so much, you expect so much. It's almost like the recent DC Crisis could have been accused of like, oh, you're advertising all these big people that are coming in for like 1-scene cameos, and it's like, well, obviously we're trained enough to know that they're probably just 1-scene cameos. It's the sort of thing where that could be a letdown if someone who doesn't necessarily follow TV news as much or understand the intricacies. It's just like, okay, you've got a movie coming out, so you do like character posters for all the different main characters. It's kind of weird when one of them ends up just being a small 2-scene character that gets killed off really quickly. And sometimes,
even in Just Hours, we're not going to talk about the new movie, but there are characters in that had these had character posters that are not in that much of the movie.
Yes. We're reviewing that tomorrow. We're recording that review tomorrow with Matt, so we'll have plenty to say. And I have plenty to say.
Oh, I've got things to say. Don't you worry.
Oh, I've got plenty to say on the Rise of Skywalker.
This is going to be a hell of a conversation, isn't it?
I'm going to go out on the limb here and say that it's not going to be as much of a fight as.
Oh, do you not think?
I think if you disagree with me too much and not giving away what side of the spectrum I fall on.
I think, let's be honest, this is you. We can guess.
I think if you don't concede much of what I have to say, you're a hack and you should never review anything else ever again.
I'm a hack. Oh. I'm not going to lie, that made me want to fight you even more. Even if I agree with you on something now, I want to fight you.
Oh, you have to agree with me on some of this. You have to agree with me.
Oh, we'll see.
I will never take another criticism you take seriously.
I'm coming in with my rubber stamp 10.
If you give that movie a 10, you're a laughing stock. I'm never going to take any comment you have in any movie or TV show ever again. Seriously.
What if I can defend every claim you throw at me? If I can back up everything I say, not just because reasons. If I can actually defend it.
I have to judge each defense on their own merits. I can't just blanket. I can't just blanket say, yeah, if you defend it, it's good. Your defense is maybe bullshit, and you've defended bullshit in Star Wars before. And
Name one.
I can't. That's like asking to, like, name one time water came out the faucet. No, because
like an hour ago. It's fine. See, you can do it.
Okay, that was a bad example because that's something you do every day. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway,
I have never defended any bullshit.
yeah, and one of the not a critique of this show, because this is not necessarily a negative on the show, but one of the quirks of reviewing this show has been that often we've found ourselves talking about Star Wars as a whole, or things around the episode, or the meta side of things, that we're talking about advertising the characters who aren't in there for a long time, is that ultimately the actual contents of the episodes don't necessarily lend themselves to actually being dissected the same way that we do other shows. And I actually heard that from another podcast this week in talking about this show. There's not actually a lot of meat to dig into in terms of, let's talk about what this means and that means. Let's talk about the plot and let's talk about these character arcs.
There's not. No.
It's so simple that we end up talking what we've done for the past 10 minutes with it.
I want to just make clear, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. Like, that does not make it inherently bad.
I started by saying that. I don't think it doesn't make it bad. It makes it. It might make it unreview friendly though. It
might indeed, yeah.
Is what I'm saying. At least podcast review style anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Mando gets this offer. He gets this call from Apollo Creed. Clearly a trap. Don't need Akbar shouting that out to know. Yeah. Was it Akbar? Was that the right character?
That was Akbar.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, let's take out Werner Herzog. We'll pretend that we're giving him Baby Yoda, and then we'll double cross him, and we can clear you with the guild. You won't be on the run. You'll get to keep the kid. I get to take out this enemy because he's causing chaos down here for us. And it's clearly a trap, but Mando goes and finds Gina Carino and says, all right, I need your help. And she's actually not interested until he mentions that they're all Imperials, yeah. So she's all along for the ride, goes to Nick Nolte and gets him on board as well to help make stuff and look after the kid and whatnot.
Mainly look after the kid, because it just starts trying to fly the ship.
Yeah. Yes, because they almost... I mean, it doesn't... I wouldn't say it almost crashes the ship, because there's nothing to crash into, but, I mean, because space is a pretty big place, but eventually it might have.
Eventually, yeah.
So... there's a couple of debates because he was Imperial, although he does point out that he was enslaved and he was sold to the Imperials. It wasn't like he chose to fight for them or make things for them. But it becomes this kind of debate here. But they get to the planet, they meet up with Apollo Creed, and they have a bit of a standoff. They're kind of working all right together. If I have a complaint about the episode that doesn't work for, or something that doesn't work for me, I do think Apollo Creed's kind of face turn where he turns around and shoots like his henchman, and he's like, okay, he comes clean and says, okay, the plan was to kill you and take the kid, right? But after last night, I can't do that. And the last night he's referring to is these winged, alien things attack them, and he gets badly hurt, poisoned, in fact. And Baby Yoda comes over and uses the Force to heal him, because the Force can heal people now. I can't talk about it, but
it's look, that's new here. Sure, whatever, fine. Not seen it before. It's been in games, so I've kind of just accepted. Yeah, Force healing's a thing.
The point I was going to make though is that until you said at the start of this review that was new, I didn't actually know for sure it was new, but I was like, this seems like a bullshit new thing. And
it's new in terms of on-screen films and TV, and I think just in general in canon stuff. It was a thing in the past. Like if you go to the Knights of the Old Republic games, like you Force heal is an ability in that game, for example. So it's kind of ingrained in the general mindset, I would say, even if it was never formally canonized on screen until now.
Okay. More thoughts on this in the Rise of Skywalker review, where they belong there more so than this.
They do.
So they come up with this new plan. Reluctantly, he's like, okay, take me in, handcuff. Mando's like, handcuff me. We'll go in and I'll kill Werner Herzog.
Before we go into the plan, so it was him kind of coming around, going, do you know what? I'm coming clean. That you didn't really like that much.
Oh yeah. It was it was just how, because he just sort of throws the line out, like, oh, after what happened last night, though, I can't go through with it. I felt like there had to be more of like an actual beat where he seemed to really grow to care about, you know, the child or whatever, or really like see him thinking about it or struggling over it. It felt like such a switch to me. It was just
I would agree if it wasn't such a colossally big event for him personally. You know, he was going to die, and then this saved him. So I think that was a big enough deal for me to buy it. If it had been something smaller, I would agree.
Well, then sell the fear of him dying right before it. Then you'll draw out before Baby Yoda comes over and saves him. Like the whole thing just happens so quick. It's like there's barely time to process. Oh, he's about to die, and then Baby Yoda's like, nope, dip. Done.
That's fair. I'll give you that one.
So the whole thing from the attack to after last night, I can't go through with it. Like that entire just kind of like, I'm like, okay, there needed to be more meat to that. There needed to be more kind of him struggling with it or whatever, or just selling the fear before he died. Like I said, if you want, in that sense, so that we understand. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, on a conceptual level, yes, obviously we all understand. Like, someone saved my life. I have to kind of reconsider what I'm doing. But there was no even like it almost felt like it should have played better if it was like a moment where he was going through with the plan and then sort of like turned over a new leaf and like helped him in the heat of the moment where he just can't go through with it. Almost like Mando couldn't leave the kid back in like episode 3 or whatever it was.
Sure.
Like a sort of moment of struggle like that where he kind of, but whereas it's just kind of like, no, I'm on your side now. This forming your plan.
Okay. I can accept that.
So they go in. There's a lot more stormtroopers than.
Yeah, it's a running gag that there was only supposed to be 4.
Yes, 4 guarding them. There's more in the town because there's been a lot of security around ever since you stole the kid. Yeah. And then, of course, at the end, there's literally like trucks of stormtroopers showing up. There's like dozens and dozens, including a row of black stormtroopers. I don't know specifically what
they're death troopers. They're from Rogue One.
Okay, I vaguely remember black stormtroopers in that.
So they are a thing. Even just the troop carrier was cool to see because that was something that Rebels kind of introduced, and it's like based on this really old, obscure toy. Then Filoni, he loved all that sort of stuff. He's like, let's just put it in because it's a cartoon. Why not? And then here they just went, screw it, live action. Let's make one. And so that was just cool to see on that level. Functionally, yeah, I mean, sure, it's a troop carrier, right?
They're going to find more uses for that. There's no way it's just showing up for one like 10-second shot in one episode of this.
To be fair, it's one of those things that's plausible to see, right? Sure, we drop in the troops on one of these little trucks.
Makes sense. I can show up at other places. But so they're all pinned down, and sort of dark ending is because when they're going in, I forget his actual character name, but Nick Nolte, he's asked to take the baby back to the ship and go into lockdown so no one can get to them, and he's racing his way there, and it's during all this that they're getting pinned down. There's all these stormtroopers, and Gus from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, he comes out as the real guy behind this, the real villainous leader who wants the child.
He's a Moff, so he was above everyone else there.
So he's attracted to light, is what you're saying?
Moff, M-O-F-F.
I was just cracking a joke. But,
I know, but I'm not letting it slide. I'm not having it.
Moff. I mean, that's a Star Wars name.
Because you have Moffs, they're governal, they're regional governors, and then you have people above them. They were the Grand Moffs. That was like Tarkin. So Tarkin was a Grand Moff.
Was that ever said in the original trilogy?
Yes.
It was, okay. Alright. Yeah. Alright, this is sounding completely new. It's been a while since I watched him.
He's referred to by his title like once or twice in that first one. And they talk about the regional governors as well at one point early on when they're saying the Senate's been disbanded, and they're like, that the regional governors will get more power.
Okay.
So it's there.
So we have this standoff, they're pinned down, and we get this sort of dark ending where Nick Nolte has been gunned down, and seemingly the troops that have been sent after Baby Yoda have captured them, and we have this somber ending, and that's where we cut to credits. It makes sense for this to be the ending. The idea that he has to actually rescue Baby Yoda now, like that. This is like he has to get him back. Now, does he get him back at the end of the season, or is this something that continues into season 2? As a whole other question.
It's honestly, I could go either way, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The scientists early on in the season, they were kind of close to killing him, right? Like, if he'd stayed hooked up to those machines, he might have eventually died. And the only reason why he didn't is because one of the scientists was kind of like, didn't want him to die. And kind of,
Sure.
humanity or whatever, decided not to. So if, Esposito here was okay with that, then surely he doesn't want them to be alive forever. Like, he's got whatever he wants to do with them probably does involve whatever the scientists were doing, which will lead to his death. Which would suggest to me that he has to save him. If not in the finale, then like the start of season 2, because any length of time would be
that would stand to reason.
Would be deathly to him. But again, that's just going by the logic of what we've seen so far. I don't know. Maybe there's greater plans. Maybe those scientists were going off book. Maybe they were doing something that.
Yeah, it's hard to say. There's been very little context of what they actually want him for. We know, they want to run experiments, but in terms of the reason as to why they want those to do those, it's kind of been lost on us yet so far.
Yeah, he says, "You have no idea what this means to me," kind of thing. So they're really selling the importance of the child. There was also an interesting conversation on the ship with Nick Nolte talking about people or beings being grown, and pointed out that he didn't think Baby Yoda was grown or like fabricated because he just looked too. What was the word?
Too ugly.
Too ugly, or basically, yeah. So like that's. So it's interesting to bring that up. I feel that was brought up for a reason.
There was some discussion earlier in the season we talked about whether or not it was a clone, right, of Yoda. And I think this doesn't prove or disprove either way, because he says, "Oh no, he wasn't designed. He was evolved." But I mean, if you clone an evolved being, they're just gonna look the same, right? So it doesn't necessarily, refute that possibility.
I will say I hope it's not cloned Yoda, because if it's cloned Yoda, then Star Wars has once again managed to bring something back that should be done and be gone. And Star Wars just can't help itself, apparently.
That's not really spoilers, given the trailers.
I never said that.
You had a look.
If you took an implication from my sentences, then I mean,
there was an implication, and you know it. But I don't know if it's a clone or not. If it is, there are reasons I'm okay with it, depending on what they do. There are other scenarios where I hate it. So, I'll wait and see on that. But it was interesting they poked it, and we did see, okay, it used the Force to choke Cara in this episode.
Oh, that's Gina Carano's name. Okay,
Cara Dune.
Cara Dune.
Yes, Cara with a C, not with a K.
I mean, I was never going to write it down, but
I know, but just why not?
I mean, it was a fine episode. It wasn't. I think what maybe hurts this one a little bit is that, like, as soon as Apollo Creed calls him, like okay, this is a trap. We're waiting for the turn.
Yeah, I think it's helped a little bit by the fact that he's very aware of that as well. Mando is, because he goes straight to get his own back up. He's like, I ain't going into this alone. Yeah,
it kind of hurts that a little bit, because you're just kind of waiting for that point to hit. And, it's not even surprising that he ends up helping him. Like, I mean, that's something that you could have seen happening. It was just, it was a case of waiting for it to get to that point. And this episode is built entirely, essentially, around the cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger is good. And I'm sure the next episode will pay all this stuff off.
I'm expecting some good action in this last episode, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they probably saved some of their budget for the last one, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Do some fancy stuff.
And to be fair, the show has looked pretty good throughout.
Oh no, the shows look great. The production value of the show is maybe its best thing. Like, that's where it's shining.
I know, like, all these stormtroopers in this episode, because there's quite a lot of them by the end here. They roped in the 501st. They're the guys who dress up as stormtroopers semi-professionally. They get all the events and stuff. So they build all their own outfits and such. So they just kind of went, hey, you guys, do you want to come in and shoot? Because it's just easier. They've all got ready-made outfits. Just like, hey, come along and just stand on set with some guns for a few hours.
I hope that these 505, did you say?
501st.
501st. I hope that not only did they get paid for their jobs as extras that day, I hope they also charged for rental of the outfits that they made, because they should have.
I mean, I suspect they probably got paid for being extras, because there's kind of laws regarding that.
I was not disputing that. They definitely get paid for being there. There's no doubt about that.
In terms of renting the outfit, I mean,
they should have done.
I don't know. They're wearing their own thing that they made themselves to go to conventions in, and now they're in a Star Wars thing. They're probably quite happy just to be there, to be honest.
They probably are happy, but they probably spent a lot of money and time building those suits. And you're like, you know what? No, you can rent the suit and me separately.
Do you know what? I'll tell you why they won't have done that. Because it'd be pretty shitty. Because every single one that I've ever spoke to does it all like towards charity stuff. So whenever they go, if you ever see them like. Sometimes you'll go out in the street, if you go to your comic shop, or if you go to a game shop or whatever, and there's people dressed as stormtroopers. They're usually 99% of the time they're part of the 501st, and they'll always have charity buckets with them and be doing that. So probably not.
I love the idea of someone being roped in to be an extra and showing up and like also handing the producer a bill or the production manager a bill for rental of their clothes, but it's just an extra, like a t-shirt and jeans. Like, you didn't dress me. I brought my own clothes. You paid for that too.
That'll be pretty funny.
How much did they cost, sir? $20.
Have you got receipts to prove it?
Yes, here you go.
You would though, wouldn't you? If you thought you could get away with that, you'd go buy something new that weekend before and go, "Yep, I got receipts. Here you go. Took this very seriously."
Yeah, get yourself like a really expensive like beard groomer or something like that, and like, no, I had to groom my beard for this scene, so that $300 beard trimmer, you're paying for that. Oh dear. Yeah, that's a fair episode. I like it. The funny thing about this show is I'm never like super enthused by it, but it's perfectly dependable to be just kind of solidly entertaining for what it is. I don't really geek out about all the little Star Warsy things though.
No, of course not.
So it's just.
I don't think anyone's expecting you to though.
That's fine.
I think though, I will say I think it's a perfectly solid and enjoyable show, even if you don't geek out about these little Star Wars things. And in that regard. Minus the one episode, which we both kind of agreed on. In that regard, it's pretty successful and clean slate friendly in that sense, which I think is something that you kind of want out of something. New show on your first show on this service. You're trying to draw in a new audience. I think you have to be pretty accessible in that regard.
If you want a real Star Wars bloodbath, however, join us for the Rise of Skywalker review.
Oh,
which will be up sometime early Saturday.
It might be lengthy.
There
might be some fighting. There might be some agreeing, and there will definitely be lots and lots of dissecting. I wish I was taking notes.
I have a newfound appreciation for The Last Jedi. That's all I'm going to say.
Do you know what I will say is because I went to a triple bill, so I watched Force Awakens, Last Jedi. I've always been a staunch defender of Last Jedi. You can go back and watch our review. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it even more this time, and that obviously before I'd seen Rise of Skywalker, so I had no impact on anything. I got out of it, and I said on the Facebook group to other people, I loved that even more this time around. There are things in that movie that I was like, yes, this is even better now. And anyone who says all the other stuff is pointless, they're wrong. They're just wrong.
It's been 2 years since I've seen it. I can't really have a proper argument about Last Jedi anymore, beyond just my general feelings of boredom and feeling like it was dragging on and whatnot, and the pacing being all over the place. But I will say this: the single best thing about Last Jedi, the thing that I definitively in the review for Last Jedi 2 years ago said that I liked as a creative choice, I liked, was completely 100% retconned in the new movie.
I suspect I know which thing you like.
So look forward to that. But that has been our discussion of the Mandalorian episode 7. You can let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fudge for channel updates. If you want to support everything we do, you can do that by rating the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. If you want to support us financially, you can do that at patreon.com/mailfuzztv and do it for as little as $1 per month and keep all the content coming and get some bonuses for your trouble. So go and have a look and see what's on offer. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. And I'll remind you once again, early Saturday, you'll get your Rise of Skywalker review with myself, Connor, and also Matt, who's also a Star Wars fan. So that's 2 Star Wars fans plus me. Just for, there's 2.
And let's be honest, you're only doing it because you were forced into it.
I was. I had to. I made a deal. I was going to not go see it, and I'd have been fine doing that. To be honest, I really didn't care. But I saw it because of a deal, and because of that,
the people demanded to hear your thoughts. And I'm sure they will hear them loud and clear.
Oh, God. I really didn't expect it to be easily the weakest of the 3. I really didn't, but oh well.
Ooh, this might be a discussion.
More on that later. So thank you once again for watching and listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?